What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another new video. Sorry it's been a while, but over the last month and a half to 2 months, it's been pretty crazy. A lot of personal stuff going through, and also we went on vacation, so haven't had time to come out here and actually film a video, a new one at least, and upload it. I did do a short, not short, it's about 30-minute video explaining what I am wanting to do in the future in the shop. So if you're interested in any artwork, such as graphics on your vehicle or airbrushing, murals, if you want a panel done or anything like that, you can go back there and watch it, and it gives you all the information you would need. All you got to do is just contact me, comment below if you want something, and then I'll reach out to you and we can get something started. So we are going to be back into doing some more airbrushing here on this video. And I'm going to show you guys, I've already got everything prepped. The panel's prepped, everything's ready to go besides the paint. What I'm going to be doing on this panel is something I'm doing in the future for a customer. So I figured might as well get my feet wet and kind of do like a test panel, if you will, but not really a test panel, just doing a panel exactly how I'm going to do the customer's project. That way I can just, I haven't airbrushed for a while, so it's always good to get some practice in before a big project. And this the customer's project is going to take me 2 or 3 months, so I'm obviously going to do videos on that and walkthroughs and anything that I can actually show you guys, I will. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you guys what I've got prepped up in the panel and what we're going to do in this video. So these panels are, I believe they're 6 by 26. So they're pretty decent sized panels. They're just really skinny, but as you can tell, we got some skeleton dude going on here with an eyeball. I think I'm gonna take the eyeball out of it though and just do a solid color. Solid, pretty much black color in there. It's kind of like a traditional skull, but it's got some of his body and everything like that. But I'm going to be doing airbrushing this exactly the same color that I'm going to be doing the customer's project in. That customer's project, he wants it all in grays and silvers, so it's going to be a lot of just monochromatic gray pretty much. I know he wants a little bit of pearl in there as well in some certain areas to make it pop when the sun hits it after it's clear coated. So I figured we would just work off of that and do this panel exactly like that. So we're going to be working in a gray tone. So here is, I'm going to walk you guys through how I mix up my paint. So I've got these little, pretty sure these are ounces. I buy these off Amazon. They are paint solvent proof. So that way when you put paint in these, they will not start melting at the bottom. A lot of these containers, you got to be really careful to make them paint soluble, because they will paint, if you let paint sit in there, they'll end up melting away and then your paint will be gone because it'll be out the bottom. There are Dixie cups that you got to watch out for too, because paint will eat the container, and it'll just, I don't know what it is, it just has a reaction to the paint and it starts just getting it wet, and then they start melting the container away with solvent paint. So you just got to be careful, read the descriptions. Like I said, I get these on Amazon. They're ounce cups. I like these because they have this nozzle on it. They just twist to open up. So these are really good for doing projects, especially big projects, because I can go ahead, especially the ones that I know what colors I'm going to be using. And since we're going to be using nothing but a gray tone, the only 2 colors that I actually need is black and white. And if you haven't watched this channel before, I use nothing but House of Color. I am going to start implementing a new paint brand into some projects. I'm going to be testing out their new colors and things like that for airbrushing. So, but I am I'm pretty much a House of Color guy. So this is what I use. If you're not used to the channel, I show nothing but House of Color stuff. So here I've got some pre-made containers that I've already got white and black mixed up, but I just want to show you guys that it is nothing but black, jet black and bright white and mixing these colors. And obviously you need some reducer. I always use the medium reducer no matter what I'm doing, just how I am. So you don't need really anything else. Slow reducer is fine. I would not use fast reducer when airbrushing because you're painting little bits at a time. You're not really blasting anything. So you might get tip dry a lot quicker with a faster reducer because obviously the paint's gonna flash over quicker than what it would normally. It's pretty cool in here. I've got the door shut and the fan going, so I always use medium though. Unless I'm doing a really big project where I'm actually spraying paint, I'll use slow reducer, but airbrushing wise, I always use medium. Like I said, either medium or slow, you'll be all right. So I'm gonna set you guys up and we're gonna walk through on how I mix these colors. So I'm gonna be using 4 shades of gray here. So let me set you guys up and I'll get back. All right, so we've got our pre-made white and our pre-made black already. These are something that I have just laying around, so they're kind of reduced, but they're really kind of not reduced. So I always, if you've been watching my videos for a long time, you'll know that I over reduce everything when I'm airbrushing. Things just flow better. So when it comes to mixing paints here, obviously House of Color is a 2-to-1 mixing system with their base coats. Now they do say you can mix 1-to-1 if you're spraying it out of a HVLP gun. Like if you're painting a car, it's mainly a 2-to-1 mixture, but they do say you can go up to 1-to-1 if you need to, but I really never do. But since we're using an airbrush, we're going to be over reducing that. So I'm going to be doing a 1-to-1 and then a little bit more for the reducer in this. This is a really easy way to show you guys how I mix colors because like I said, we're just using a gray. So there's only 2 base coats that we're going to be using. So what you'll see me do here is I'm going to mainly fill these up first with just white. So let me go ahead and do that. So, like I said before, when you're airbrushing, I am not using a ton of paint. So I don't need to fill this thing all the way up. I just need to fill up what I think of what I'm gonna be using because you don't wanna waste paint. So you wanna be kind of mindful of how much you're gonna use on whatever you're doing. We're doing a kind of like a smaller to medium-sized panel, so we don't need that much paint in these. So like I said, I'm gonna fill them all up with white first. So about right there is what I need it for the first one. I said it don't take much because you got to keep in mind we're going to be reducing this afterwards to a 1-to-1. Oh, we got a little bit of spill. Grab a rag here. And that's why I like a lot of these containers is they're really easy to clean up. If you do got a little bit of a spill, no big deal. These are solvent proof as well bottles, and they got this little nice little cap on them. They do tend to get clogged in here if you leave them open for long periods of time and close them. So you got to kind of go in there and kind of unclog it, if you will. But they're really, really nice to use. They store your paint really well. You just got to be mindful of the heat and not leave them outside in the cold, things like that. So we're going to do black. So now, if you know anything about color theory, how you make gray is pretty much white and your blacks. You can go in there and you can add a little bit of blue if you want like a hue to it, or you can add like a green if you want a green hue to it. But I'm just going for a straight gray tone. And like I said, I'm going to try to use only 4 toners here that I'm going to make up. And those toners are not going to be black and they're not going to be straight white. So straight black and straight white I am not going to be using because one, the panel is already white. So I'm not going to be using any straight white. And then black, I'm not using black because it is going to be too strong for what I'm trying to pull off. And I'm not going to be using black on the customer's car either. So I'm going to do this exactly the same way, like I said before, as I'm going to approach my customer's car down the road. So black is not going to be used by itself, as neither is white. So when I'm going through here, I go by a drop system, as most airbrush artists do when they're mixing up their paint. They go by droplets just because it's an easy gauge. So this is going to be our lightest color. So with our lightest color, we don't want to put a lot of black in there. So, and this is another thing, that reason why I love these cups, because I'm going to put one drop in this first. You got to think black is a lot stronger than white, right? So you don't want to overdo it. So you can really overdo it really quickly with black. So we're going to go drop by drop to get the right mixture. So I'm going to go through here. And of course it's clogged. So I'm going to unclog this real quick, and I'll show you guys what I mean with it being clogged like it is right now. So these right here, they just get clogged for not using them for very long. So you want to try to just unclog them, if you will. But like I said, they're really awesome to use. You gotta keep them clean every once in a while. They get kind of crusty in here if you don't. If you got a shop like I do and your paints just lay around and it gets hot and warm and cold in a matter of a month, that's what happens, is stuff starts getting clogged up. That's why I don't like reducing these beforehand, especially the bigger bottles, knowing that I'm not going to use them right away, because stuff will start getting clogged up quicker. So now that I got this cleaned out, we're going to do one drop. So it's kind of hard with these, especially if you have a lot of paint in these, to get exactly one drop out of them. So it was a little bit more than one drop, but we're going to call it one drop. So this is why I like these. You can close these, put these caps on there, shake them up a little bit, and you're going to see, you get to see what color you are working with here. So I'm going to open it back up, and you can tell, I mean I can tell, but I don't know if you guys can tell, but that's a really light gray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one a light gray, because I know when I go to use this color first, how I work is light to dark. So when I go to use this is the first color I'm going to use. So how I'm going to use this is, since it's going to be a really light gray, it's going to barely show up on my white panel, which is what I want. I don't want anything too harsh, too quick. All right, so now we're going to do twice as much in the second one. I say that's a pretty good reading for twice as much. And then we're going to shake it up. And the good thing about this is, if this one comes out way too dark, we can make this the last one we use. Or we can simply add more white to it, since we did not make up a lot. I'll look at it. It's still on that lighter tone, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple more drops. And this is probably going to be perfect. Kind of see it. And that's more what we're looking for. It's a little bit darker of a gray than what this one was. So I always keep these side by side, and that you never want to, I mean, obviously I can tell, but you guys won't be able to tell if I mix them up, and they'll just look all the same to you guys on camera, but in person you can tell a little bit of darkness from each other. So this one is going to go a little bit darker than the second one. So we're going to add, that was probably, the second one was almost 5 drops. So let's just call it 5. So we're gonna put 6 in this one. 1, 2, oh, there's more, 5, 6. Let's shake it up. And if you have to, if you're doing a lot of colors at once and you're doing everything monochromatic, to keep them in order, you can get a Sharpie and write 1, 2, 3, 4 and keep them all in line that way, which I might do after I get done. Just to, you know, if I come back another day and I kind of forget where I'm at, I can always know by labeling them. Or you can put a piece of tape around these so you don't, you know, ruin the bottles, because I'll reuse these bottles. I'll clean them out with thinner and reuse them for another color or another project I'm doing. I like that. You can definitely tell. Let me see if I can show you guys the difference. You probably can't tell on camera, but this one's a little bit darker than what this was the second one. Because they are so close in color, I'm going to add one more drop to this third one. There we go. I don't know if you guys saw, but that's a lot darker. Even though it's all light grays, it is a lot darker than the one before it. And then if you took the first one off and compared to this last one, you can really tell how much darker it is. Like I said, probably not on camera, but in person, I can tell. And once I start spraying, I'll be really able to tell. So this last cup is going to be the darkest one without going all the way black. So you can kind of tell by me showing you the colors of how light of grays I'm going to be working in. And that's the trick to kind of building up your layers. You never want to go too strong too fast. So that was 7. So we're going to do 8 in this one, maybe 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that was almost 9. So let's stop there and shake it up and see what we're working with. Now I want it to be a little bit more noticeable on this one, because this one's going to be the areas that's going to be the darkest. So like the eye sockets in the skull, the nose inside the skull, all the nooks and crannies that are going to be on the skull itself. These are the areas that I'm going to be using with this. So we want it to be somewhat noticeable. So that is pretty good to me, but I'm going to put one more drop in there just to kind of bump it up a little bit. As I said, I want it to be dark, but I don't want it to be so dark, because it's going to be a very fine gradient scale of grays that I'm going to be working with. And you could probably tell that one the best of how dark it is. It's really dark in person, but so that is pretty much how I make my color. Now, if I was doing other colors, if I was doing like a blue or whatever, I would mix up all of my colors beforehand, similar to this way. You can see it's really not that difficult, to be honest with you. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab a Sharpie, and we're going to mark these. I'll mark this on 1. This one's going to be 2. This one's going to be 3. and then 4. So that is pretty much it, guys. As you can tell, it's really simple. It's not that difficult. Now, I'm going to be reducing these. Like I said, these are already pre-reduced. So I know they're not reduced enough to go through my micron because it is a very small needle. It's like a 0.18, I believe, is what the micron is. But I don't want to mix up reducer in these because, like I said, if these sit out in my shop and it's supposed to be really hot this week. So if it gets really hot and humid and I reduce these, for the little amount of paint I have in here, it could pretty much harden up on me because there's not much paint in here at all. The more paint you have in something, the longer it's going to last against like humidity and heat and stuff like that. But that's why I'm not going to reduce these, but I'm going to start reducing these in the cup when I start pouring these colors in there. And it's mainly, like I said, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 system with the already being pre-reduced. So it's just a little bit more than 1-to-1. And like I said, I usually try to thin it out more and crank my air pressure down because it allows me to get really fine details. That way, if I need to go in and do something really tiny, I can pull that off with a little amount of air pressure, because the more air pressure you crank up on your airbrush, the more overspray you're going to cause, right? So I always try to keep that air considerably low. I don't go by numbers, I go by sound, and a lot of guys might rip on me for that, but it's just, I've been doing it for a long time, so like I know just by the sound of how much air is coming out of my airbrush to use in certain situations. So just keep that in mind. You might want to write that down. The less air you use, the more finer detail you can get into, and the more over reduce you can reduce your paint. And like I said, I know water, if you're somebody using water, you can still do it this way as far as mixing paint, but the reducer is going to be way over what you think. Just because solvent or water-based paints is a lot thicker than what solvent-based is. Solvent-based just flows so smoothly, and to get water to flow really smoothly out of an airbrush, you need to pretty much over-reduce it twice as much as what you think you're going to reduce it. And you can tell really fast, and like I said, you're going to have to crank down your air pressure when you over-reduce paints. That way you're not blowing it out, because it will blow it out and it'll be a big old, it's like you just sprayed reducer everywhere is what it's going to look like with a little bit of paint in it. So you always want to crank your air pressure down, over reduce your paints, and then you can go in there and you can start layering things a lot quicker and a lot easier than if you have your paints cranked up and you got a lot of pigment flowing through there without being reduced well. But I wanted to show you guys this because it's on the easier side of mixing colors up. And I haven't really shown how I've mixed colors up like this before. And being that it's a grayscale, it's a really simple one to grasp. So if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, comment down below, and I'll be gladly to help you out. But with solvent paint, no matter what brand it is, this is pretty much, most all solvent paints are 1-to-1. So this pretty much, you can follow this along with everything, but I always recommend House of Color. It's treated me well over the years, and it's probably some of the best paint you could ever buy in the automotive market. So it is what it is, and that's it. So the next video, we're going to be tackling this skeleton here. So if you like that kind of thing and you want to see how these colors work in correlation to that, you can stay tuned for the next video. Another thing I want to mention right here before I sign off is, let's say if I start airbrushing with these, let's say if I pick this one up, because I want to be using these in order. Like I said, I go light to dark when I airbrush. Very rarely will I go dark to light. Just certain cases I will. But if I end up mixing this up, spraying it, and it's just way too light for my liking, you can always go back and adjust it. And then just do it by the drop size. So, and you can even make note of that if you want to. If you want to do how many drops you put in each container, you can put 1, and then you can put like a power number up here for how many drops of black you used in it. It's a really easy way to mix up colors. You can use this method on pretty much anything. Skin tones is really big. You start with your really light peachy color, and then you can bump it up by putting either your red in there or like a yellow, depending on what skin tone you want to use, or you can put a little bit of like a dark brown in there, and you can bump up your contrast that way. So it works with everything. Anything you're going to be painting, this method works throughout the whole thing. So I want to show you guys that because I think it is a little it's a little trick, and it makes things a lot easier, and it's a lot messier with these cups, and as long as you don't spill it everywhere like I did earlier. But with these, you just twist these, you pour it, and I mean, you're ready to rock almost. Just make sure, if you don't reduce it like I do in the airbrush, just make sure you reduce it. And with that being said, since I don't have those fully reduced, I won't just dump paint in there first. I'll throw a little bit of reducer in there like I have here, and then I'll put paint on top of that, because what's going to happen is if you throw paint in here and it is not reduced, it's going to sink to the bottom of the neck where the air supply is going to go and where the paint's going to come out, and it's probably going to clog in here really easily. Being solvent paint, you're not going to have as much issue if you do that. I kind of forget about that sometimes, and I'll throw paint in there, but I always shake up my cup anyway. So but it is a lot easier to get paint kind of dried up in here if you're not careful. So it's another little trick, is throw a little bit of reducer in there and then put your paint in there. That way the paint is actually hitting the reducer first. It's going to fall through it, and it's going to it's going to mix itself almost. Obviously you still need to shake it up and make sure it is fully reduced. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to go over with you. So like I said, if you're into skulls and you want to see how these layers work out, stay tuned for the next video.